Hello and welcome to the Mana Flood podcast, the only podcast where the boys decided a hand with 5 lands, an arcane signet, and a soul ring was a good enough hand to start. Get your floaties ready because the episode starts now.
We recorded, everything's ready. We should be able to. I don't know where this is actually recording to, so I'll burn that bridge when I go for
that
anything.
That's a late issue.
That's a later issue. Anyways, hello. We are Mana Flood. This is our very first episode, the pilot. So you're gonna have to bear with us. If you, we'll just say who we are first, and then I'll get to upkeep stuff. I'm from the Flood, and this.
I am Parmesan, like the cheese, not spelt the same way.
I love it. And together, again, we are Mana Flood. As you can see, we've just got our studio set up. We're still moving things in. You can see a box behind Parmesan and a backpack. We're still moving in. Everything is just happening. And yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it behind us. If you're listening on Spotify or somewhere else, you're gonna just have to believe us. Just believe us. So today, for our pilot, since we're still just getting set up and we just want to get an episode out there, we're actually gonna do something like a hot takes episode. Really, we've got a couple of cards and a couple of takes that most people might not agree with, and we're gonna go from there. So yes. Also, first episode and all, normally I won't say this, but we are a Magic the Gathering podcast. Mana Flood is, you get too much mana, you mana flooded. It's annoying. We hate it.
Terrible time.
We don't love it. But yes, today we've got a couple of hot takes. I think we've got like 3 or something like that. And so I think that's probably, we'll just jump right into it. There's nothing else to really do here. So do you want to, I think I have 1 and you have 2. So do you want to make a little sandwich?
Sandwich sounds good. All right.
A little bit of a sandwich.
little Magic the Gathering, little snack, We're very weird.
Yeah.
All right, so first hot take. I know a lot of people, especially within Commander, EDH, even like C EDH, probably have a problem with this. Land destruction. Tilts a lot of people, makes them very salty. Personally, I don't think it's a terrible thing. Most people will say like target land destruction. So if you're targeting one land, that's whatever.
I'm fine with like targeted land destruction, but I will get a little salty if I'm playing Eldrazi and I'm about to cast my first spell on turn 8 and you just blew it all up. I get a little bit upset about that.
I'm not gonna lie. I think like mass land destruction is a very, very valid strategy.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Oh, it totally
I think anything that you can use to your benefit to accelerate your game plan or put you in the running of being the winner.
Yeah.
Completely valid. Armageddon the shit out of your table. Please, for the love of God, destroy all those lands.
Take them out. Yeah, why, though?
Well, I mean, like, they can't counter your stuff. They don't have access to any removal. I mean, unless they're obviously using, like, stuff within the freeze cycle. Like, why can't I think of the card? Force of negation, that kind of stuff. But yeah, even if it just simply allows you just to swing for a little bit more damage to, like I said, kind of put you ahead of the other players.
Fair. Okay, so with that on the stack, do you believe it's okay if you're just like land destruction, but you don't have a plan to win off of it? It's just there to fuck up other people.
If you don't see, that's where it kind of gets tricky for me. Is like if you can't like immediately win off that mass land destruction, I think that is completely okay as long as it doesn't put the game in a dead state.
Yeah.
Like all lands are destroyed, fine, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if that puts you ahead of your opponents just because of your pre-existing board state, I don't see a problem with that.
If it puts you on the path to victory, then
exactly.
It's fine.
And of course, like if you have an immediate way to win, great. Like if you foretell a cosmic intervention, so when all your stuff hits the bin, pops back up onto the battlefield, great.
Okay.
Because then you just get your lands back.
Yeah, that is completely fair. What do you think about if you're dropping that mass land destruction card when you're behind and it's just going to put you further behind? Is that
awful?
Yeah.
That's just
that's back to the main.
Not to really like sugarcoat it. That's just bad magic.
Yeah, yeah.
Truthfully.
Like it really is, but like I know there's people who's like, oh man, I listened to a podcast and Buddy said mass land destruction is okay all the time. So
here's an Armageddon. Sick, dude. No, don't
I've
do
played
that.
nothing this game but Armageddon.
I cast Armageddon. Allow me to copy the Armageddon. Like, what's the point?
Armageddon Storm.
No, thank you. Please,
Yeah,
God.
okay. So it's just you say it's a valid strategy as long as it's going to help you win the game.
Correct.
Which honestly, I don't I understand why it's tilting, because now you can't play, like, your deck can't play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Your deck can't do the thing that you designed your deck to do.
Yeah.
But it is a valid strategy. It's the same as playing like a Mystic Remora, which, you know, cumulative upkeep 1 allows you to draw a card unless your opponent pays 4.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Which no one's ever going to pay that 4, by the way.
No,
There's
one.
no way. It's the same. That's getting you closer to your combo pieces. And I think that what you're saying is if you're using it to delay it out to get closer to a combo piece, or because one of your opponents is getting close to a combo piece, something like that, you're just, it's fine, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like, I feel like that's fair. Like, I know it's a hot take. I know a lot of
Yes,
people are going to
yes.
be like, there is no way. Like, that is the worst. You guys suck. I never want to be in a pod with you. But we don't, if our pod beforehand, if we do like a Rule 0 discussion and we're like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm playing Mass Land Destruction, and the pod is like, I will leave right now, we're not going to do it.
Exactly.
Obviously, like, everything we're doing, Rule 0 discussion comes first. However, I know for a fact that you have played Mass Land Destruction in a pod we play in.
Me?
And you still get invited back.
I sure do.
So it's not like people aren't going to hate you for doing it. As long as you're on the path to winning the game, and you don't do it, your deck isn't centered around
Yes,
Mass Land
yes.
Destruction, right?
Then maybe we have a bigger issue at hand for sure.
Maybe build another deck. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe,
know.
you know, have friends, maybe.
Yeah. That's, if all you're doing every game is Mass Land Destruction, then you're probably not getting invited back to your pod.
Yeah, I think I have a new deck idea, by the way.
Oh, no. We should architect it.
Yeah, we should.
That would be
for
a
sure.
lot of fun, actually.
But yeah, kind of like back to what you were saying, especially in like a format where there's a lot of mana dorks, there's a lot of mana rocks. It really doesn't it sets you back, but like you can still play stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
I feel like with Mass Land Destruction, if one of your opponents is mono green, you didn't do anything to them.
truthfully, if they're Simic, you did nothing.
Yeah,
if they're
it's
playing
just like-
Omnath, Locus of Creation, you did nothing.
No, they're
They're
just
getting all their lands back like
whatever.
next 2 turns.
Graveyard Recursion, Lands Matter decks, none of
Exactly.
them are going
None
to
of that.
really
None
care
of
that
that.
much.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of places where Mass Land Destruction, I get it. It's very annoying. Like, if I was playing my Eldrazi deck and you were like, Mass Land Destruction, I'd be like, you are ass. I would be genuinely mad because that deck is all about ramping until I can play one card.
Sir, that is very fair, but also stop it, please, for the love of God.
Well, this is going off on a tangent here, but that's kind of what Eldrazi is about. It's about not being the threat until you're the threat.
Literally.
Like,
You look at the board, they're like, they're not that bad, and all of a sudden, here's Emrakul, here's Gazalek, here's Ulamog,
that literally just happened.
here's Zula Dog, I'm a Cascade 2 times. Wait a minute, slow down.
That literally just happened
Yeah,
before we
literally,
sat down.
I was looking across Chase, I'm like, he's not that big of a threat. Bam, Emrakul, World Anew. I'm like,
Emrakul World
wait a
Anew.
minute.
I take all of my opponent's creatures.
Gets the double trigger off of Ulalek. I'm like, all right.
No, it
GG's.
wasn't Urlik. It was
No?
Roaming Throne.
Yes, Roman Throne.
I
Sorry.
took everyone
Yeah.
remaining creatures, and I just won the game. But yeah, that couldn't happen with Mass Land Destruction.
No, absolutely.
Which,
not.
again, it's a valid strategy. It really is. Like, my Eldrazi deck has a crap ton of lands. It has 38 lands, which normally in a deck, it's a 5-color, sure, but normally in a deck you probably don't want 38 lands because you'll draw lands more often than you'll draw something you need.
Yes.
Right? But I need it because of the sheer amount of ramp I need to get the Eldrazi out, which means I have extra lands. And so mass land destruction, again, it would be super annoying. But at the same time, you're keeping the Eldrazi player out. It's a valid strategy getting you closer to the win. Like, that could be, like, the difference between the Eldrazi player getting Emrakul out that turn and winning, or the Eldrazi player now has nothing. It goes back to you, and you can finish the Eldrazi player off, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So again, like, I see both sides of the argument, and I know I'm like on the fence on like both sides. Like, well, no, I get why mass land destruction, but also you're an asshole, you know? Like,
Yeah. Completely understood.
I get both sides, but at the end of the day, you're right. It is a completely valid strategy. It's not banned by the rules committee,
Exactly.
which again makes it a valid strategy. Sure, it might piss off some people, but at the end of the day, Commander is a social, a very casual format, but it's also competitive in that you're trying to win the game,
Yes.
right? And end of the day, or end of the hot take, I guess, I have to agree that, yeah, mass land destruction, if it gets you closer to your win condition, is going to be a good thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure,
Like,
for sure.
it's not bad.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
Just try it once. I promise.
Yeah.
I promise.
It's annoying if it happens to you because you know you're going to lose the game.
Oh, correct. For
and
sure.
that's why people
Yeah,
get
like
salty.
like
right?
I like doing it, but when it happens to me, I'm like,
This guy must have no friends.
literally
Holding
holding an Armageddon in hand.
Yeah.
The audacity of this guy.
This guy right here. Yeah, I can. Yeah, it is a thing.
Yep.
All right, so I guess we're just gonna move right along into our next hot take, and this one will come from me, and I'm just gonna come out and say it. I think Rhystic Study is actually good for the game of Magic, and especially the Commander format. I know you're going like, but it's a noob killer, and it is. It is.
I mean, I can kind of see what you're saying. Kind of.
Right? Like, I've seen so many arguments online, like, oh, it kills noobs. They don't understand why they're dying. You get free card draw. And honestly, you don't. Like, if you see a Rhystic Study, budget for the Rhystic Study. Like, if it comes out early, it's a moderately effective stacks piece. Like,
For sure.
especially if you're paying the one every turn, like, it's annoying, sure, but nothing is really stopping you from paying the one, right?
Yeah,
and
for
then
sure.
if you can't pay the one, maybe don't cast that extra spell unless it's to remove Rhystic Study, and then sure, they get one card off of it. But if you just don't pay the one, and the reason I believe it's good for Magic the Gathering is if you don't pay the one, the person with the Rhystic Study, even if it's only like 1 or 2 turns, maybe 3, they're more than likely going to end up winning the game.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Because they've drawn so much from it, even if you see them discarding, because I know a lot of noobs fall into the trap where they're like, oh, he's discarding just as many as he's drawing, that must be bad. No. There are madness cards in like the places you wouldn't expect them. Like Emrakul, the World Anew, is madness for 6.
Yeah, there are decks like Muldrotha.
Yeah.
Muldrotha, you want stuff in your bin.
You absolutely
You're having a
absolutely
great
do.
time
Yeah.
if stuff's in your graveyard.
Yeah, and like, so Rhystic Study making you discard, that's not a big deal because chances are you're looking for a specific combo piece or a specific win condition, or sometimes you're just looking at cheap cards you can keep and play them all next turn and draw a bunch more cards with Rhystic Study. So if you are constantly paying the one, the Rhystic Study player can't do that. And then a lot of people I've heard go, oh, well, it destroys noobs. And it's like, that is also true. And like, if you're playing it in LGS, sure, you might not be able to discuss the game afterwards.
Yeah.
Right? And like, I love playing at our LGS.
Yeah.
I really do. It is so much fun. I love the people there. But when someone's just learning Magic, I think it's a lot better for them to do kitchen table stuff, to hang out with a group of friends who are teaching you the game. And like, that'll be actually maybe another hot take for later in the episode, for after your next one, is that Commander is a terrible way to learn the game. Like, that'll be like another hot take, but everybody has the same hot take there, right? It's not... But we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you're doing the kitchen table Magic after the game, maybe, especially if you know they're new, don't shuffle up and play another game immediately. Maybe take a minute and go, all right, do you know why you lost that game? And if they go, well, he threw down an Emrakul. And it's like, I mean, yes.
Yeah, true.
But
True.
also, no. How did he get that Emrakul? That Rhystic Study was out for 4 turns and nobody paid for it.
Literally.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, even if you're the one winning off of this, your games are going to end up being so much more fun if everyone gets to a similar skill level, and it just becomes a game of what card is Buddy about to drop down, right?
Exactly.
In any version of it, and any power level of deck, from 1 to 10, is more fun if everyone's around a similar skill level at the actual game of Magic. Right? And that's why I believe Rhystic Study is actually good. Because it'll teach, if you have these conversations with the new players, Rhystic Study will actually teach the new players that threat a lot about threat assessment.
Yes.
Right?
I also think partially it teaches them about like how to manage their mana resources, whether it's their lands or their mana rocks, to appropriately not only be able to like pay for the Rhystic Study triggers, but also still be able to do what they want to do on their turn.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll teach them about keeping 2 blue open for counter spells, right? And then if there's more, the more Rhystic Studies you have in your game, the easier it's going to be to have mana open for a counter spell.
Yes, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
Because you're so used to just going, okay, the Rhystic Study is down. I have to pay 1 for the Rhystic Study in order to make sure that it doesn't, he doesn't get a card off of it. And then you're constantly thinking about that. So having that, it'll almost become like second nature to have up enough mana for counter spells, which will help you play blue.
Yes.
And I mean, white, it'll help you play the game because there's so many instant 1 mana or 2 mana things that you can just bop.
Tons of interaction.
Right?
Again.
Because I know when I was first playing, or when I was first getting back into Magic after a long break, I was always going, oh, I have this interaction in my hand, but I don't have the mana to play it. I don't have that mana up. Right? And if someone had taken the time and gone, look, Rhystic Study, this is what it does, right? You pay the 1, keep 1 open at all times.
Yeah.
You will lose the game essentially if you don't remove it and you don't pay the 1.
Yep.
And that, I think, just helps with a lot of aspects of the game. It extra threat assessment, extra resource management. There's so much that is just helped from having a Rhystic Study on the board for newer players to look at.
Yep, for sure.
Right? And I've seen there are so many different arguments against Rhystic Study, but I think that's really what it ends up boiling down to, is the people at my pod won't pay for it. Right?
Yep, exactly.
And if you're only playing at your LGS, I understand why that would be frustrating. Because you can't have those talks with the new players after.
No.
But what you can do is you can try to befriend those players, because chances are they're going to be in your pod again.
Yep.
Right? And you can just go, hey, look, this is why you pay for it. Because that person won the game. And sure, it looked like he got a Bruvac paired with Cacophony of Madness, I believe.
Maddening Cacophony.
Maddening Cacophony, that's the one, yeah. Bruvac the Grandiloquent will, if you mill a card, you mill double. Maddening Cacophony, I think it's Overload?
I believe.
No, it's not Overload. It is the extra cost one.
Kicker?
Kicker, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a kicker, so it's 6 mana total. And target opponent, all opponents mill half their library, rounded up. And then Bruvac doubles that.
Yeah.
So it completely mills your library, right? And you could be like, well, I lost to that combo. And it's like, no, you allowed that Bruvac player to draw a billion cards until they got into their combo. So it wasn't... And that's one of those things that unless they've experienced it, unless they've seen it firsthand, you can't really teach
Exactly.
it, right? So
Exactly.
heuristic study is great for learning, but it shouldn't be this huge problem that everyone makes it out to be,
No,
Really?
no, definitely not.
right? There's so many different types of removal in the game. There's so many different ways to deal with it that I feel like a lot of people are getting super salty about it, and they really maybe shouldn't get super upset about it.
It's true. It kind of comes back to also like what you said earlier. Like if it was truly a problem, the commander advisory group would probably slap it on the ban list.
Yeah, that thing would be banned.
Correct.
If it's game breaking, that would be banned very, very quickly. And I'm as we're going through, I'm thinking of more and more hot takes, because episode 1 is like entirely improv.
Yes.
Because we did not prepare anything for today. We were just like 100% improv today. We can do it. Whatever. First time.
Yeah,
We're still
bada bing.
we're still moving in. It's fine.
Yep.
But yeah, I've got 2 more hot takes, so I hope you think of other ones while we're going.
Sure, I will.
Perfect. But yeah, I that's how I genuinely feel. I don't think heuristic study is as big of a problem as many people make it out to be.
Yeah, for sure.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Next hot take that I thought of. For some people, I guess it's not really that hot of a take, but I do find it very common, especially at like LGSs and whatnot. Your deck, whether you are new or experienced, I mean, I would hope experienced, you have this in your deck. You should have at least, like, minimum, in my opinion, 2 win cons. I see a lot of new people, right? They'll buy a pre-con. They'll be like, yeah, this is great. This is awesome. And then they'll build their own deck, which by all means, fantastic.
Yeah, please.
Let those
please
creative juices flow.
build your own deck.
But the common thing I find is that when they build their first deck, they don't really like, well, for one, they don't really play test it. They just kind of bring it and they're like, let's go.
Yeah.
2, they have, like, just say they build like Sithis, like a budget list of Sithis or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And they have all this value. They're drawing a ton of cards. They're gaining a ton of life.
Yeah. Sithis Harvest's Hand.
Yeah. Like they're
was-
taking like 20, 25 minute turns. Maybe not actually that much. That's an over exaggeration. But
yeah, but
long
they're
turns,
long.
right? But they don't actually have a way to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just like, I have all this life, and then you hit me for 21 command damage, and I just lose.
Literally.
Like,
Literally.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I have seen decks like this that just they build a huge board, but they have no way to close out the game. They're just like, I'm doing all this stuff. My turns are taking forever. Everyone's miserable.
I have so much value. Oh, I lost.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I milled myself out. Shit.
I think a lot of new
No way to
players kind of have this how do I like this kind of like notion almost that like combos are very costly when in fact like there's a lot of infinite combos out there that are actually like really cheap.
It is. Once you start playing Magic for a while, it is surprisingly easy to accidentally put an infinite combo into your deck.
Oh, for sure.
And then you play it and you're like, wait. Oh, okay.
Yeah, literally.
That's a thing.
There's a combo I run to my Satsuki Living Lore deck. It's
Mm-hmm.
literally Devoted Druid and Swift Reconfiguration. It makes it an artifact. You keep putting those -1 counters on Devoted Druid whenever you tap it for mana, so you can keep untapping it. It doesn't die. It's not a creature.
No, no.
Infinite mana. Bada bing, bada boom. Dump it into something. You're good.
Game over.
But literally, that combo is like under $5. Like I think it's like $2.50 Canadian.
Yeah, Canadian.
Canadian. But yeah, I just think use resources to your advantage. Like a lot of new players, I also know, to like Google it,
Yeah.
or they'll see something on game nights, and like that's cool, which like it is most of the time. But win cons are important.
Win cons
Use-
are important.
Yes, use Scryfall, even though I know it can be like a little bit difficult to use.
Yeah.
EDH Rec, in my opinion, is like one of my favorite tools to use.
Especially when you're new to building a deck.
Yes, very
Because
much
you're
so.
just like, okay, EDH Rec, it's going to show me all of the nice synergy pieces and everything. And then you should also be able it should show you things that are like win cons and stuff like that. That you just look at it and you go, that, if it's in the deck, if I draw it, will win me the game. Right? And having at least 2 win cons, I agree with. That's
Yes,
great.
for sure.
But also, you probably want a way to draw into them.
Yes,
Right.
for sure. Also, like, you don't even have to have like combos to win.
No,
Just
no,
like
not at all.
if your deck does a thing, make sure it does that thing pretty efficiently.
And in a way you win, because with Sithis, Sithis reads whenever you cast an enchantment, you gain a life and you draw a card.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
With that, gaining a life and drawing a card is actually going to get you closer to losing the game than winning it. Because if you activate that ability 93 times after you've drawn 7, so 92 actually.
Yeah.
You activate that ability 92 times, you lose the game.
Correct.
93. Yeah.
93.
I was right the first time. My math was right.
No, you're good. You're good.
But yeah. You do that, you lose the game, right? You gained a bunch of life. It was really cool. It was super fun. But then you lost the game because you had no way to win, right? You had all these cards in hand, but you didn't do anything with them, right? And I think that's a very good point, because it's very easy to draw your whole deck with Sithis by turn 3. It is.
With the
It's-
right list, for sure. Yeah.
with the right list,
Yeah.
yeah. Right? So, yeah, I have to agree. Just put win cons in your deck and ways to get to those win cons.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it
exactly.
doesn't have to be like I draw my win con by turn 3 and I win the game. No, that's CEDH.
Yeah.
But in casual, you want to be able, because if everybody, you want to be able to win the game. Because if everybody just has decks that do cool things but don't end the game's going to take a long time. And especially for like newer players or people who don't want to sink 5 hours into one game of Magic the Gathering, that can be very frustrating.
Yes, very, very frustrating. What else was I going to point out? Yeah, another thing, kind of what you were saying, is that like, you don't necessarily have to like draw into your win con. Like if your deck makes tokens, and it makes a lot of them, and the point of the deck is to make tokens and swing, do that. Make sure your deck has a whole lot of ways to make those tokens. Not even necessarily just like token doublers, just like enchantments that make tokens whenever you play a card, stuff like that. Make sure your deck has a lot of anthems like Intangible Virtue, give them +1/+1 in vigilance, stuff like that. Stuff just to like primarily make your board stronger in order for you to get that win.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, like, again, if you're playing green and you're just building big creatures and you're just throwing them on the deck, your win con is ramp. And you don't, like, you don't think to yourself, ramping is going to win me the game. But if you have enough ramp pieces in there, you're going to get out your Crater Hoof Behemoth, your big creatures, because green's all about the creatures, right? So you get enough of those, and then you ramp enough, you get enough ramp pieces, you're going to win a lot faster. Your opponents are going to go, whoa, I thought this was casual, and you're like, it's turn 6, and I have like 1 8-mana creature out because I ramped well. Like, that's still very casual, but I have a win condition on the board now. And it makes it more interesting as well, especially if everyone is following this philosophy, because it almost feels like everyone takes a turn becoming the archenemy until no one has any answers. Right? And that's cool.
Very true.
That's fun. Like, that's fun Commander. That's fun Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
Where everyone's like, oh, he's the threat now. Now he's the threat. Now him. Now her. Right? Like, that is super fun Magic the Gathering.
I agree.
Whereas if one person, every time you play, is always the archenemy, that's... Unless you're playing archenemy, that's kind of boring.
True.
Right?
That's a topic for another video.
Yeah, absolutely. But, like, I think that's boring. And if you're constantly the arch enemy and you notice your table isn't having as much fun anymore, then maybe build a deck with less win cons.
True.
Right?
True.
Like, it can go both ways. Like, sometimes you can have too many win cons that it's like, well, he's always a threat, we always have to focus on him or her or they, like, and that for you can stop being fun if you're getting focused out every game you play because people are so used to you being an archenemy. That means when you make a new deck or you're trying to play test a deck and you just get immediately stomped, you can feel like, okay, well, I have to go back into playing my archenemy decks because that's the only way I get to play Magic. Right? So it's bad on all fronts to not have the right number of win cons in your deck.
Yeah. Also, I think, again, it just kind of comes down to it with the Rule 0, man.
Yeah.
Before you get down at the pod, start playing, be like, hey, man, what's everyone playing? Kind of gauge what like power the pod is going to be at, and then go ahead and decide what deck to use from there.
Yeah, and that's something that I find difficult with LGS games as well, because their rule 0 is usually you don't really get a conversation. You get it's posted on the Discord or it's posted on the website. Go look there and read it beforehand. Whereas if you're with a group of friends, you can go, all right, guys, look, I'm not feeling mass land destruction today. I just want some chill magic. I'm going to play some creatures, get something big out by like turn 10. Can we play that kind of magic? Can we play something slower? Because turn 10 is slow magic. That is slow magic.
Very slow.
Like, but it's still, that could be the kind of game you're wanting to play.
Yeah, exactly.
So have if you're playing with friends and you genuinely are like, these are my friends, there is no shame in having a rule 0 conversation with people you consider your friends, right? Exactly. And yeah, I think rule 0 conversations are so important to having fun with the game, and I can. Sure. That is another thing. We can have a whole episode just on Rule 0. Like we can talk about Rule 0 forever.
Rule 0, the movie.
yeah, it is so absolutely important to have Rule 0 conversations, and again, like having these hot takes, I think are also good in general for the community.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
discussion is always good.
Yeah, discussion, having talks, stuff like that. It's always going to help. Yeah, I had 2 more hot takes.
For sure.
I forgot them. I did not write them down. They were hot takes, though. Let me tell you. You would have been like, "Whoa, I can't believe
you said that." They were spicy.
Yeah,
on the Scoville scale.
We both would have started sweating, you know. And we ain't even breathing hard yet. But no, I forgot them, and if I think about them in like the next couple minutes, then maybe we'll throw them in. But until then, we're just going to end it here. It's been about 30 or so minutes. If you would like to hear longer podcast episodes, leave that in the comments of the YouTube video. If you think 30 minutes or around this mark is perfect for you, then I guess also comment that. We need feedback. It's our first episode. So if you're going to watch and listen to our hot takes, and we're not just going to do hot takes. Like, we plan on explaining like the different colors, what they do, histories. We have a bunch of ideas. We just need to do some research for them.
Yes.
And we wanted to get something out to get people excited for these future episodes.
Yes.
We do have a Discord. We're not sure what we're going to do with that yet. And if you have like any like business opportunities or anything like that, you can email us at floodedmanapool@gmail.com, which I think is a fantastic email. Thank you.
It's very good. Very nice.
Thank you very kindly. But I believe we should probably just conclude the episode here. I am from The Flood. You can find me on Twitch. You can find me on Twitter, or X now. You can we'll probably make a Flooded Mana Pool X account as well, just so you have somewhere else you can contact us. It'd probably just be Mana Flood. Let's be real. let's be real. Mana Flood would make more sense. It was taken for the email. So.
Sure. If you want to find me, again, I am Parmesan. You can find me at Parmesan TV, which is PARMAJAWN TV on X. I will probably be making an Instagram and a what's the other thing? Oh my god, a TikTok at some point. There we go. Once I have those credentials ready to go, I will probably just throw them in a video. So.
Perfect. Yeah, and like I said, if you have any comments, critiques, if you like what we did, if you hate our hot takes, please let us know. Give us feedback. We need to know. We're going to be changing the background behind us pretty soon here. We literally just got set up. You can see I've got speakers behind me that we got to set up for around here. Surround sound system. There's a shelf behind us. There's a backpack, a box. There's so much stuff behind us. We're still just moving in, just getting set up. But we fully plan on keeping this going. And if you have topics that you want us to cover, if there's something like, I have this hot take and I would like it discussed or anything along those lines, please leave a message. We would love to hear any kind of feedback. You could be like, you've got funny feet. Like, anything. Just please give us feedback so that we can make this a better show.
Yes.
For not just for us, for everyone else involved, because I want to continue to do this, and I had a lot of fun with this first episode.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
It was very good. Very fun.
we had a lot of laughs. It was a great time, and I hope to make more. So until next time, thank you for watching or listening to the Mana Flood podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Mana Flood podcast. Any references to companies or other content creators in this episode are done strictly out of love for the brand, as we are not sponsored. If you would like to contact us, our email is floodedmanapool@gmail.com or find us on X at floodedmanapool. You can also contact the host directly at From the Flood or at Parma John. Have a good day. Bye.